Today is March 21st, 2012.
We will be discussing a controversy that is sparking interest in the world, genetically modified animals. Now let's go to George outside of the studio, who will be discussing this new technology with a Dr. Seuss.
I'm here with Dr. Seuss, and he is going to explain to us how technology works for genetically modifying animals. For example, his dog.
Well, my dog here is specially modified to glow in the dark, and what we use is the genes from a jellyfish, and we splice them together with the genes of the dog. And how that works is we have an enzyme that goes in and it finds certain order of the genes, and it uses that to cut it, and then with the cut part of the gene we can insert the part of the gene that we want, and that will allow the dog to glow in the dark. Along with also having genes that glow in the dark, we can make it so animals can live longer. They can produce specialized milk that has proteins in it of the characteristics of humans. Many contributions that we can do with genetic engineering.
Now you will never lose your dog.
We brought in Dr. Seuss to further explain how exactly you genetically modify an animal like his dog. Dr. Seuss?
Alright, so we have our dog DNA and we have our jellyfish DNA. The jellyfish has a gene in it that will allow glowing in the dark to happen when I connect it with the dog. So you take the enzyme, which in the case right now is the scissors, and you cut out the DNA that you want for having the dog glow in the dark. So now if you look, this isn't going to get in there, so I have to get the plate to be able to fit in the DNA of the jellyfish. So I take the enzyme again and cut the dog's DNA so that I'm able to put in the DNA of the jellyfish. So now I have the two DNA strands and I put them together, but they're still not together. So I take the another I take another enzyme that will connect them and allow for the two different DNAs to stay together. So now we have the DNA of the jellyfish and the dog working together to make the dog glow in the dark.
Interesting.
Thank you, Dr. Seuss, for that insightful information. I never knew that you can make animals glow in the dark.
Yeah, who would have thought scientists would become so advanced in technology that they make pets glow in the dark?
I have no idea, but are we taking this too far? Let's see what the people have to say about this.
We went out on the streets to get the people's opinion. What are your thoughts on genetically modifying animals?
I love them because this genetically modified animal takes me around town instead of cars.
Do you think we go too far when we genetically modify them just to have them as pets to look cooler?
No, I love these things. And look at me. Ooh. So awesome. I don't have to move around house. I just stay inside.
There you have it. What are your thoughts on genetically modified animals?
They're an abomination in nature,
Why?
because it's not in God's plan.
Okay. We decided to meet with some scholars to discuss the benefits and downfalls of genetically modifying animals.
I am Mr. Keene, and I am doing the benefits for genetically modifying animals. A pro for genetically modifying animals is the increase of health. Research is underway to use genetic modification to improve the health of cows and pigs. Advocates hope to produce cattle that would be resistant to mad cow disease. For example, cows are being genetically modified to produce milk with higher than normal levels of protein, which would speed the process of making cheese. Cattle, sheep, goats, chickens, rabbits, and pigs have been genetically modified with the aim of producing human proteins that are useful generally as medicines. The gene transfer process is typically very inefficient. Genetically modified animals can improve human health by producing novel replacement proteins, drugs, vaccines, and tissues for the treatment and prevention of human diseases. Another pro for genetically modifying animals is it makes better yields of meat, eggs, and milk. Scientists have successfully introduced human genes into 300 dairy cows to produce milk with the same properties as human breast milk. Human milk contains high qualities of key nutrients that can help to boost the immune system of babies and reduce the risk of infections. Cows can be bioengineered to produce several varieties of milk with a lower level of protein that's allergic to some infants, milk that is more easily digested by people who are lactose intolerant, milk that has more naturally occurring antimicrobial enzyme and therefore has longer shelf life, and milk that makes better cheese because it is altered distribution of caseins or less fat. Salmon have been bioengineered to grow 5 times faster than wild breeds. Hens have been genetically modified to lay low cholesterol eggs, and chickens have been altered to produce anti-cancer drugs. Genetically modified animals are more resistant. They're less prone to diseases. They're less likely to get diseases, to become ill and die. They survive harder conditions. They don't have to eat as much food, and they still grow larger than normal animals. These animals can live in bad conditions, like extreme temperatures during the winter and summer. They can live longer. Due to these changes, we can make it so they live longer in these conditions. In countries where food is less accessible, people will be able to get more food to survive. That was the pros, and now here are the cons with Michelle.
I'm Michelle, and I'll be explaining the downfalls to genetically modified animals. There are plenty of cons, but I won't go into all of them. But some major things that are bad with genetically modifying animals is safety. We do not know the long-term consequences of putting human hearts in pigs, because when we use them on humans, we don't know if they could give us some other type of disease or cancer that could harm us, or something new that we've never even discovered before. And some genes can be mutated, so when you take a gene out and put it into another animal, you could be messing with other genes inside that animal, causing other issues with them. And with the putting flounder genes in tomatoes to make them last longer and in harsher conditions, you could have an allergic reaction if you are, say, allergic to the fish and somehow it got into the tomato, because putting certain genes into other animals could also create antibiotic resistance, because some genes could cause cancers or things like that, and we don't have the antibiotics to get them to go away like we do like for vaccines and stuff. So that could be another issue because there could be some cancer or something taking over and creating and spreading throughout the world, and we wouldn't have any way to fix it, which could definitely harm our population and our food production. Another major issue with genetically modifying animals is ethics. Many people will have a problem with this, especially if they're mixing species, and even they're mixing animals in different kingdoms. People find issues with that because of religious values and their morals and stuff. So there will be a lot of riots possibly, and this could not end very well. And they use gene splicing inappropriately because they use genetically modified animals to help with health and medical stuff like that, but when they use it just to make your animals and pets glow, is that necessary? A lot of people might have a problem with that because you shouldn't be messing with the genetic makeup of animals just to make them a different color. Also, some scientists are making a special species of mice that will die faster so that they can test putting different genes inside of them to see what will happen. And that's not right, because you shouldn't make a certain type of mouse just so that it will die faster, and so you can test these things that you don't know what's going to happen on them. Another major issue with genetically modified animals is the testing process. It costs a lot of money to test because you have to do it over and over, and that can get very expensive, and people aren't going to want to pay for that, especially when it's in a way it's coming from the people's money, and if they don't like it, I mean, they're not going to want to pay for it, and we won't be able to do anything if something happens. Like, if something goes wrong, what are they going to do? Because they don't know anything about it, and if they don't have, like, multiple scientists or people helping them, they're not going to be able to control it by themselves. There was also a case where they put another animal inside of pigs, female pigs, and they mated them, and they had about 400 offspring that got into consumers' hands because they went to the slaughterhouse, and they weren't tested on. They weren't supposed to get out of the scientists' hands, but they did, and people ate them. And if that happened, who's to say that it hasn't happened before, and who's to say that something isn't out there right now that could be killing millions of people in the world because they could not handle the animals properly. Well, I think I can speak on behalf of all of us in saying that we better understand genetic engineering.
It has made us all have an opinion about the pros and cons.
This was an M&G News Today. Join us next time when we'll explore the effects of alcohol.
Mama